Today we bring you a story that is familiar to many of us, the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We're going to pick it up halfway through, so what has happened so far is Nebuchadnezzar the king has built a giant golden statue and has commanded his people to worship it. Some Chaldeans have come to him and told him that 3 Jews are not worshiping his statue. So, remember this portion of the story of God as it is written in the book that we love, from Daniel 3, verses 13 through 30. Now, Nebuchadnezzar, the king, was full of rage and fury and commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought in. And they brought these men before the king. Then Nebuchadnezzar spoke and said to them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you do not worship my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have made? Now, if you are ready at the time that you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, lyre, trigon, and drums, and all kinds of music to fall down and worship the image which I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you will be cast the same hour into a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that will deliver you out of my hand?" Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer you in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us out of the fire, and he will deliver us out of your hands. But if not, be it known to you, O king, we will not serve your gods, nor worship the golden image which you have made." Then Nebuchadnezzar was full of fury and distorted his face against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and commanded that they heat the furnace 7 times hotter than it was normally heated. And he commanded that the most mighty men that were in his army bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. And these men were bound in their coats, their trousers, their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's command was so urgent and the furnace exceedingly hot, the flames of the fire killed those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And then these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down, bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spoke and said to his counselors, "Did we not throw 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." He answered and said, "I see 4 men, unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the form of the 4th is like a god." Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the furnace and spoke and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out from the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then the princes, governors, captains, and king's counselors, being all gathered together, saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, whose hair was not singed Neither were their coats harmed, nor was the smell of smoke upon them. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king spoke and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and disobeyed their king and yielded their bodies that they might not worship any god except their God. Therefore, I make a decree that any people, nation, and language that say anything amiss about the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid to ruin, for there is no other God who can deliver in this way." Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. This is the word of the Lord.